and welcome to the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center. My name is Rich Cooper, and I am the Director of Museum Experiences here at the Freedom Center. We are so honored that you've all joined us today for this important conversation and opening of the exhibits on mascots here at the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center.
What is present today in our lives? We are here today in this great institution that celebrates freedom and the men and women who dared to fight for it. To look at the present so that we could chart a different course for the future. You will see in this important exhibit that we have continued to disfigure the face of Native Americans. This time not with smallpox, but with small-minded mascots. These stereotypes diminish the greatness, the spirituality, and the humanity of people once proud and still proud. And in diminishing them, we are all diminished. Red Indian motor oil, Red Man chewing tobacco, Calumet baking powder, Land O'Lakes margarine, Mohawk carpet, Indian head cornmeal, Crazy Horse malt liquor, the Washington Redskins, Cleveland Indians, Atlanta Braves, Trail Chief thermal socks, Chippewa shoes, Lawn Chief mower, and Iroquois brands, and on and on. Seriously? In a distant time, 8 decades ago, and in a distant place, Nazi Germany stereotypes were also the norm. They did not have headdresses or eagle feathers, tomahawks or war paint. But when Adolf Hitler wanted to convince the German people that Jews were less than human, he had authors write children's books with vile stereotypes of Jews. He had movies created with Jews morphing into rats. He had posters created with depictions of Jews as communists and money thieves, like this one.
My grandmother is part Seminole, that you will see. You can see a picture of her. My mom's mother well, my dad's from Florida. My mom originated from Oklahoma. She was born in California, but she's part Cherokee. And so I always felt a real, allegiance to Native Americans that have come to, fruition. They haven't, they've gotten rid of a whole bunch of things. Like when I was a kid, I was wondering how come, and I'm sure the Native American kids are wondering the same thing that I was wondering then, that how come every time we were depicted as Sambo, or we had red lips, or Abba-Zaba, we had a bone in our nose, or something derogatory, or, how come, and even in my own family, these are some of the things that were out there at the time. There's Abba-Zaba right there. And it's like it was hurtful for me to look at myself on how I was depicted. And my son even asked me, we were in a place in Sonoma, and he complained about this Abba-Zaba poster that was on the wall that had sugar babies and all the old big honk and all the labels of different things, and I didn't even notice it, but he noticed it. And I called the owner over, and he didn't even know what it meant. He just put it up there, and so he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. He was all apologetic, which is part of the education that I needed, and part of the education I think that we all need, because we don't know what's derogatory, to another person or, another race.
It just has to be a monetary thing, because I discovered there are no Indian tribes in Washington, D.C. And it surely can't be the population of Native Americans because they're only 0.6 of the population. So I'm sure that was an overwhelming theme by the tribal people that live in Washington, D.C. So you draw your own conclusion. There could only be one reason. And there's so many honorable names they could give that team that is deserving of Washington, D.C., the capital of our country. And when you know that that name is unacceptable to a group of people, why would you continue to hold on to it? And I never teach cultural sensitivity. I never use that term, and there's a reason for that. I can make all of you culturally aware, but I cannot make you culturally sensitive. Because you can take it any way you want, and apparently this gentleman is not culturally sensitive. He's culturally aware because we've made that very clear to him, that it's not acceptable to be called a redskin. And I'd like to just show you a quick snippet of how redskin has impacted me growing up, because we used to go to the show every Saturday, the Saturday matinees at the theater, and this is what we got to watch.
Yes, they fought savagely, for they were a primitive people, and self-preservation is a primitive instinct.
I am going to bring a perspective that's quite different, I think, from the fellow panelists. And my perspective is really, what does the literature say? What does the literature say about the use of negative mascot images and negative mascot vocabulary? But the remarkable thing to me is that we're sitting here in 2015 having this conversation. We're having a conversation where we're discussing whether or not it's celebratory, or whether or not we're allowed to use derogatory terms for a group of people. We would all agree that we can't use derogatory terms, and we would all agree that it would be inappropriate and insulting to use derogatory terms for any other group of people, and yet somehow we're debating whether or not this is okay in 2015. There is no debate. The Native Americans say it's hurtful, it's hurtful.
When it's in a taunting, mocking way, well, no human being appreciates that. Of course, we're not all beads and feathers anymore, but there was ceremony that went with that, and it was highly spiritual, and it was a serious thing to us. But when fans paint their face, put chicken feathers on, and dance around and mock us, we don't care for that. In the same way with the tomahawk chop. Or they could take the Redskins and keep that name and change their logo to a red skin potato. Boy, I really like those red skin potatoes. They're good eating.